guys, and welcome back to the channel. We're in Brunswick, Georgia, and Mary Ross Waterfront Park for a specific reason. Mary Ross Waterfront Park was named after Mary Letitia Ross. She grew up to become a history teacher and notorious author. She also translated a lot of archaic Spanish into English. She's most noted for her personal library of historic documents and her association with a deceased professor from Berkeley by the name of Herbert Bolton. First, we wanted to show you this. You may or may not have heard of Brunswick Stew. If you have, then you also might have heard of the debate that goes on about where it was invented. This stew pot that you see here is supposed to be the one that was used to make the first Brunswick stew in the world. Well, first Brunswick stew in the United States. You've got some people that will disagree with you, and we wanted to show you that. For those of you that have never heard of Brunswick stew, it's a traditional southern dish with connections to Germany. Supposedly German immigrants brought it over with them. It varies by region, and it typically consists of a tomato base with beans, vegetables, and 2 types of meat, various spices and seasonings. In Georgia, we use pork and beef along with some hot spices, ketchup, and barbecue sauce.
You like some stew? It's over 100 years old. Big old pot of stew.
Now, some of you may also be wondering what the difference is between stew and soup. Both use the same ingredients, but the difference is the amount of liquid. Stews are typically thicker than soups, and they oftentimes tend to have larger chunks of meat and are cooked low and slow, though you can find soups that have big chunks of meat and are cooked low and slow as well. So mainly it's the amount of liquid. So this is the park. It's got the pavilion. They do outdoor flea markets here and farmers markets, different summer concerts, bazaars, see? And they have a Liberty ship model over there. We'll take a walk over to the waterfront and show you what it looks like. Sort of. Kinda, sorta. Well, I guess you can't get up there. It would have been nice. It's blueberries? What are they? This is a play area for the kids. It doesn't look like much, but I'll show you what it does. See? It's for them to play music. There's all different ones where they can make different sounds. My honey's waiting on me. Now this ship is for sale. It's been for sale for a long time, and it looks like we won't be getting on it today. Yeah. There's the salt marshes.
I'm gonna buy that ship.
Want to buy that ship?
Yeah.
We should, huh?
Yep. Definitely sail off into the sunset on this. quite literally.
There's the sign about the ship, Peacemaker. See, built in Brazil to be a charter vessel in 1989, was brought to Savannah to be finished. This is more of the waterfront. I like their murals. Yeah. It's cool. So we're back home now, and it's a little too late to start our Brunswick stew because it'll take 6 to 8 hours to make. So we're going to wait and make it tomorrow. We're going to start making the Brunswick stew by opening up these cans of sweet corn. It's cream style, no salt added. There's 3 of them, and each one is 14.75 ounces. So we're going to go ahead and do that first. They'll help add some of the liquid to the stew. And we're also going to put in 2 cans of the whole tomatoes, plum tomatoes. Alright, I just poured in the corn, sweet corn, no salt added. And it was 15 ounces. And now I'm going to put in the sweet peas, 15 ounces. I'm not going to drain it. And next up will be some hickory and brown sugar barbecue sauce. Alright, so here's our barbecue sauce. I'm using a half a cup of hickory and brown sugar, Sweet Baby Ray brand. We're going to go ahead and put that in there along with a cup of ketchup, a half a cup of Worcestershire sauce, and then we're going to start on sauteing up some of our vegetables. Ketchup, I'm just using regular store brand, and for the Worcestershire sauce, we're going with the good stuff, Lee & Perrins. I went ahead and rinsed these no-soak chili beans, and I put the seasoning inside of the Brunswick stew as well. So we're going to go ahead and throw them in the crock pot. Okay, the beans are in the crock pot. All I have to do now is cut up a cup of okra. We don't have okra in the garden, so I had to go ahead and buy that. And we also purchased the Trinity mix. Of course, you can't have a stew without the Holy Trinity. I'm also going to go ahead and add garlic because we want to have that in our Brunswick stew as well, about 3 or 4 cloves. So we'll grab that out of the fridge and get to chopping. Now, I'm not a tremendous fan of okra because if it's not cooked right, it can be slimy. But this recipe requires it if you're going to do a traditional Brunswick stew. I've already went a little off script by adding that chili bean packet. I figured it was easier than adding in the individual seasonings. It pretty much contained everything that I wanted to put in there, and I just decided to go with it. For those of you up north that may not be familiar with okra, that's what it looks like on the inside. And we're going to go ahead and cut up just a cup of it. Since we don't eat it all that often, I don't want to prep too much of it. We need exactly 1 cup, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. The noise you hear in the background is Pablo and Oscar. They're playing, wrestling over their toys. Typical Pablo and Oscar fashion. That's how they like to spend their morning. Alright, we've got the okra already chopped and put into the crock pot. And I've chopped up the garlic and thrown it on top of the pre-made Holy Trinity. And I've got an entire stick of butter, which I'm going to throw into the pan. As you can see, I'm using unsalted because I want to control the salt content that's going into the Brunswick stew. I'm going to saute this until the onions are translucent and the peppers and celery are a little soft, not too much because they'll soften up the rest of the way inside of the crock pot. Now, as we mentioned before, Brunswick stew, the traditional kind, calls for 2 types of meat. Here in South Georgia, it's normally pork and beef. They're the 2 kinds of meat that get put in the stew. Other places may use, you know, something different, maybe chicken and pork or beef and chicken, whatever. But we are using this, and the recipe that I have calls for 3 pounds of pork and 3 pounds of beef. We went a little off script, and instead we've got a total of 6 pounds of meat, but as you can see, it's heavier on the pork than the beef. So we're going to go ahead and prepare that in just a moment, and you can see we've got our Holy Trinity and garlic working in the saute pan. And of course, no time in the kitchen would be complete without my babies. That's Pablo. He's having asthma issues this morning. And we have Oscar over here. Yes, right, see, right at the feet, right at mommy's feet. I know, baby, I love you. You make it very hard to cook, sitting on my feet. I love you, I do. And see, Pablo, he doesn't have to sit on my feet, but he does like being with me in the kitchen. And see, there's the stove, there he is. They're right up mommy's butt, pretty much. Yeah, I know. Alright, I went ahead and dredged the meat in some all-purpose flour. We've got the pork, which I broke down, and I'm going to still use the bone, but I want it in smaller pieces to go into the crock pot because the crock pot's pretty full right now with the veggies. And little by little, I'm going to go ahead and sear all of it. Alright, we now have all the meat seared, put in the crock pot with all of the other ingredients you watched me put together. I'm going to turn it on low. We're going to let it simmer for 6 to 8 hours. And I also had some leftover that wouldn't fit in the crock pot, and the bone was part of it, so that is going into this pan. Now, while the Brunswick stew is cooking, I just wanted to let y'all know that we chose to do this particular video in January because January is National Soup Month, and it is also the month that they traditionally host the Brunswick Stew Billy Festival. Now, the Stew Billy Festival takes place in Brunswick, Georgia, and basically it is a huge competition to see who makes the best Brunswick stew. It's typically held at the waterfront park or other large gathering areas within the city of Brunswick. This year it is supposed to be held on January 26th, and they're calling it the Brunswick Rocking Stew Billy Festival, and it'll be taking place at the park that we showed you earlier in the video. There'll be an antique car show and all kinds of other things going on, and we're hoping to attend, but just in case we don't, we wanted to go ahead and give you a peek at Brunswick Stew nonetheless. If you decided to give Brunswick Stew a try, please go ahead and leave us a message in the comments. Let us know how you liked it and whether or not you plan on making it again in the future. And by all means, if you ever make it down to Georgia, please consider stopping by the Brunswick Rock and Stew Billy Festival. We think you'll have a great time. See y'all later.
Brunswick stew with a side of delicious sandwich. Yum. Dive on in.